Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Welcome to the Energy Harvest Universal Healing Event. This is the first event of its kind, and we're so excited about bringing this opportunity for healing to the collective. I'm just so excited about the community that we are developing over here, and we want everyone to be a part of it. So thank you so much for finding time to come in and join us. So before we get any further, I'd like to go around the room and say thank you to everyone for coming and joining us. We have so many wonderful things. We have so many wonderful things planned for you today. And so we'd like for you to come in with an open mind, come in with a chilled spirit, come in ready to connect. And so what I'd like to do right now is have us all take a moment of silence so we can reflect on why we're here. So we can take an opportunity to thank the Creator for another day. We're going to start with a couple of cleansing breaths. Okay. That was a nice cleansing breath. We're going to go with a couple of more of those cleansing breaths. Okay, one more cleansing breath. Okay, wow, that feels wonderful. Just to calm down from the hustle and bustle, from all of the intrusive thoughts, from anything that could be playing in the auto background. We want to silence all of that. So right now, I think it'd probably be a good opportunity for me to lead us in some I am affirmations so that we can raise our vibration, so that we can all vibrate from the same frequency as we move forward. Okay, so here we go. I am worthy of healing. I am a unique expression of the Creator. I am open and receptive to all good coming from the universe now. I am open to the vulnerability that sets me free today. I receive all information designed to heal my mind, body, and spirit. I give myself permission to engage the feelings that sometimes don't feel comfortable. I give myself permission to heal. Ooh, can you feel that? Can you feel that energy? I can feel your energy. I know that you're here. Even though I can't see you right now, I can feel your energy. It feels so wonderful to have you and your source connect with me and my source, and collectively we resonate on a higher frequency where healing is available. Oh my goodness, this feels wonderful. Okay, whew. Now that we've done that, now that I know we're all on the same playing field, I'd like to go ahead and get started by sharing the mic, sharing the video with some of my fellow light workers today. Not only am I going to be speaking to you about trauma healing and how you yourself can heal from trauma, but we also have Katie Newton in the house. She is going to be leading us in some body yoga today to align our minds, bodies, and spirits through yoga. Katie, would you like to say hello to the people?
I would. Your whole spirit is really contagious. You've always been such a joyous person, and I just am tickled to death to hear you speak and to be here today. So my name's Katie Newton. I'm a registered yoga teacher. I've been teaching yoga for 10 years. I'm also a licensed therapist in the state of Indiana. We're going to be going through an easy, all levels, breath work, yoga postures known as asanas. The breath work is called pratapana. It's stoking the fire, and it's really about regulating body, mind, spirit through the use of breath and spinal movement. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for letting me be a part of your special event, and I can't wait to hear what you have in store for us.
Thank you, Kay, for being here. Ooh, I cannot wait for that session. I have my mat ready, my towel. I'm ready to do some stretching and align my mind, body, and spirit through yoga. Thank you so much.
You're
okay,
welcome.
guys. Now we're going to move on. And after Katie comes and brings us this nice body yoga, we're going to have Dr. Dottie Simpson Taylor come and speak to us about soul repair, guide us in a meditation today. And so, Dr. Dottie, if you would like to introduce yourself today, that'd be wonderful. Come on out and say hello to the people.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, doing great. We want you to say a few words to the people. You can turn your camera on if you'd like to, and just say hello and welcome the people to our event today.
Hi, I'm Dottie Simpson Taylor. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm having trouble with my video. But I'm glad to be here. I'm just looking forward to having this conversation about just being who we are.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Okay, I was going to see if I was a way I could help you with your video, but unfortunately, from this vantage point, I can't control it, unfortunately. But I'm sure that you'll get it together before it's your turn, and it's okay. We're going to just continue to move forward. I have a wonderful presentation for you today, so I'm going to go ahead and cue that presentation and share my screen with you and go ahead and get started. As you know, this is the Energy Harvest Universal Healing Event, the first of its kind, and so excited to be bringing this to you. When God gave me the idea of writing the book, The Energy Harvest, I had no idea what it was gonna turn out to be. I had no idea exactly what it was he wanted me to say to everyone, but I continued to pray and I continued to meditate, and I just asked God to please make it something that comes from you. It has to be from you. I cannot do this on my own. I need your help. And so he jumped in and he helped me, and we created this book, this workbook called The Energy Harvest. So here, I just want to let you know that I am not a doctorate in psychology. I am not a licensed clinical social worker. I don't have a behavioral therapist degree, and I'm not a psychologist, right? But what am I? I am a miracle, a walking, talking, breathing, living, healing by the grace of God miracle. Breaking free from the perpetual, fight or flight of trauma has led me to healing the invisible injuries that I had in my past. And so now, as a result of healing the injuries, I am now able to communicate with people and help everyone see how they can also heal their injuries. So before we get any further, I'd like to bring out some house rules, okay? So the house rules for our healing event today are: one person speaks at a time. Advice is not given. However, we do want you to share your experiences. If you have something that you'd like to share along the topics that we're talking about today, please feel free. This is your opportunity. This is your atmosphere that we're creating here so that you can feel vulnerable and that you have the sense of safety that you need in order to be heard. Because so often we're not heard, we're not seen. And so often we don't have the words or the opportunity sometimes to even talk about these things. And so I'm really grateful and very, very happy to be able to bring this to you. Okay, so if you raise your hand, I'm going to recognize your virtual hand and call on you to speak. And we want to most definitely keep it positive. Even though we all are in different places in our journey, we all have different experiences, we're not going to criticize anyone for where they are or for where they come from, because that's not a healing environment. What we have here is a healing environment full of concern and care for each other, okay? And so We want to be grateful. Number one, be grateful for this wonderful day that the Creator has brought to us. Number two, grateful for the opportunity to heal our spiritual injuries. And then on top of that, we are going to have some fun. You guys want to have some fun today? Let's have some fun. All right, now I'm going to continue on. Now, the Energy Harvest Workbook. This has been such a delight. This has been such a delight to write this book. I was not the same person after writing it as I was going into writing it. You can tell by the way the book is set up and the way the tone changes throughout the book. It's amazing. So the approach for the Energy Harvest, I believe that you are a multi-dimensional spiritual being. And so I believe that about me too. I believe we all are multidimensional spiritual beings, and we have supernatural power that we enact through visualization, imagination, creativity. These are the ways, and intuition. Don't want to forget that one. That one's really, really important too. These are the ways that we communicate with our higher power, with the God source, with the energy. This is how God communicates back down to us through our visualization. For me, sometimes he gives me a vision of what he wants me to do. Sometimes as I'm meditating, I have something come inside of my spirit to show me where I'm supposed to go. So he communicates through visualization. He communicates through creativity, through my intuition. Okay. And so this is what I want you guys to help you understand, that we have these innate gifts, these innate talents and instincts. And this is how we're supposed to heal as multi-dimensional individuals. When I started learning to heal my trauma, I couldn't find the healing that I needed to the degree that I needed, because it only focused on one component of who I was. And that was the mental part of me, maybe some emotional part, but never was it spiritual, and rarely was it physical. And so the approach that we have with the Energy Harvest Workbook is that it heals you across the board, not in a silo where you're individually hurting in this area while you've got some healing in this area. No. We're going to heal across the board so that all your components can fire at the same, fire with the same intensity, so that you're not handicapped in your healing. Okay. So now what we have here is the opportunity to slow down and focus inward. So often we're always looking for solutions outside and around us. But today we get an opportunity to look inward for the solutions, to look inward for the problems, to go searching for those injuries so that we can heal them. Now, the Energy Harvest utilizes a systematic approach so that we can track the progress. It's a 4-phase healing process that has questions that you can answer in each one of these phases. Now, as you're tracking your progress, you can come back and see how you were doing 6 months ago. As you look back through the answers that you gave to those questions, you're going to be able to track your progress. Because if you can't track your progress, how do you know that you're having progress, right? So I wanted to make sure that we had some way of actually visualizing and keeping track of our intentions, keeping track of our healing, and keeping track of our answers. Now, what I really like about this, and this is how the book got its name, the Energy Harvest. So what we're doing is we are releasing the low vibration energy by going back to our childhood, by going back to what I like to call the scene of the crime, because that's where it all took place. Going back to, when I was told I would never amount to anything, when I was told certain things, going back to the trauma, and healing at that point. What that does is it allows the energy that is trapped in that situation, right, to be released. And as it's released, it is no longer a low vibration energy. because the spirituality that we apply to that situation allows that energy now to become something that we can use moving forward. Now we don't have to continue to support that old negative energy. Now that energy can come forward to support our new goals and our positive actions. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. I'm so excited about this, guys. And so the other thing that we do with the energy harvest is it allows us to repair our relationships with ourselves. How many of you feel guilty? How many of you feel shameful? How many of you feel that low vibration based on things that you haven't forgiven yourself for, based on, you know, things that you were told? And so now you don't have a really good relationship with yourself. You don't have a relationship with the higher power or the creator, whatever your source is. And then you don't have a relationship with others around you. I don't know about you, but when I was feeling funky on the inside and I was feeling hurt on the inside, I hurt everybody that was around me. There's a saying that says, hurt people hurt people. And I was a hurt person, and I did a lot of damage and hurt to others. And so I had to rectify that. I had to repair the relationship with myself and the way I saw myself before I could go on and move forward. And so that's what this workbook is going to allow you to do as well. So the first section of the book, after the self-assessment, because there's a self-assessment in there, I thought, you know what? Most people don't even realize that they had trauma. Some people don't even understand what trauma is. And so there is a short self-assessment that you take on your own to see if this is something that you're ready for, to see if you're ready to embark on this healing journey. And then at the end of the self-assessment, you make a commitment to yourself. You say, I, Katie Newton, I, Kendra Broughton, I, whoever, make a commitment to myself to complete all 4 phases of this energy harvest and go on to live a best life. So it's not about a commitment you're making to me. It's about a commitment that you're making to yourself to heal. And I think that is what's so wonderful about it. And here you're going to learn about your spiritual trauma. We're going to learn about your moral trauma. We're going to be guided through all of that through mindful activities to help you identify the trauma. Okay. Now, most say trauma happens at a very young age. Now, that I know for a fact that it happened at a young age for me. And so, like I was saying, we go all the way back to the beginning, and that's where we focus our energy to heal. Set is, you ever heard on your mark, get set, go? Well, the set portion of the workbook is where you get set. You get set to move into action. You don't quite move into action yet. This is where you get set to move into action. This is where you find out what your tools are. What tools do you have available? You have prayer, you have meditation, you have mindfulness, you have like I know on YouTube, there are a lot of people that I watch. Wayne Dyer, for one. I like Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra. These are all the people that I have listened to along my journey that have helped me. And I have put some of their stuff into this book so that you don't have to go read those books because it's in this book. But of course you could if you wanted. But anyway, the set portion of the book helps you get set. We're going to learn how to do affirmations. It's everything that you need to equip yourself for battle, because that's what's going on. You are in the battle to heal your trauma. You're in the battle against your mind because your mind doesn't want to be healed. It thinks it's just fine the way it is, but the spirit knows different. And so you have to be able to heal and fight this spiritual warfare, if you will, against your mind. I know that sounds kind of interesting, but how many times have you said you're going to do something and then 5 seconds later, you're off doing something else? Well, that's because your mind jumped in and gave you something else to do as opposed to focusing on the thing that you were going to do. And so this is the way the mind plays tricks on us, but we help you and we set you up for success in the set portion of the workbook. And then now you're ready to achieve. Now you're ready to just go. And so in the achieve section, through positive actions and spiritual practices like meditation, visualization, imagination, you are going to learn how to bring about your healing, and it will manifest in your life. You will be able to see the things that you have wanted and the things that you are working towards begin to manifest in your life. You will be happier. You will have a more sense of peace within your spirit. Your mind is not going to be as cloudy as it used to be. You'll be able to carry out tasks throughout the day without becoming overwhelmed with those intrusive thoughts. Now, I know you understand that because I know I'm not alone there. I can be washing the dishes, and the next thing I know, there's an intrusive thought that has made its way into the front of my mind telling me something negative. I don't want that happening. So as I work through the energy harvest, I'm able to train my mind. I'm able to unlearn those negative things about me and relearn some new things so that we can continue to move on and achieve the greatness and achieve, all of the goals that you have set for yourself and for your healing. It's available to us all if we're willing to do the work. And I know you guys are. And then it's about sustaining all of this stuff that you have achieved. It's about sustaining that peace of mind. It's about sustaining that gratitude. It's about sustaining that self-care, right? It's about sustaining that goodwill towards others. See, it's not enough to just do it occasionally. It has to become a way of life. It has to show up in your habits. It has to show up in your practices. This is how you sustain it, by bringing it into your life and embracing it in its totality, right? Allowing yourself permission to heal all of you. So we utilize the tools obtained in the mind section or the mind session to maintain your healing and consistently live in harmony with source, self, and others. Now, in summary, you will be able to go from injury to invincible as you learn to identify and navigate your feelings, heal your trauma, align your belief system, and rejuvenate your spirit. I'm so excited about sharing this workbook with you. I'm so excited about you being here today. And I think that's going to wrap it up for my portion. And so let's see here. I am going to turn things over to Miss Katie Newton actually, does anyone have any questions about where we are so far before we jump into that piece? Any questions from anyone? Okay, doesn't seem to be any questions. All right, so what we had planned is that we would take a little break here so that everybody can get ready for the yoga. I'm going to take my computer and get up to my mat and get myself ready. So if you guys want to get ready for your yoga, Katie, can you give us 10 minutes to get ready for our yoga? Okay, awesome. I'm going to go ahead and stop the sharing for now, or stop the recording, and then we'll start back up when it's your turn to get started.
Okay, good.
All right. If I can see how to pause it.
Great. Can you see me and hear me?
Okay, now that we have gotten ourselves ready and changed for yoga, I give you now Miss Katie Newton. Thank you, Katie.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me and see me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. I wanted to speak a little bit about my relationship with Benita first before we get started, and how you mentioned about healing trauma, and you also mentioned the intention of what is your intention for today. Yoga is great for healing trauma, especially when we incorporate breath work. As you know, the body keeps the score. The body remembers the places, the events wrapped around your personal trauma. For example, if you were had experienced some sort of trauma at a park, and you can't go back to any park because the body will remember that. The breath will quicken, the body will become tense. Yoga in particular, when we talk about movement of the spine, linking breath to movement, can help regulate those things. It's also about spirituality, but it's about also self-regulation, so we can help heal our trauma. I met Benita years ago and was very inspired by her in a more vulnerable time in my life. And she came in and was so glamorous and upbeat, and has always just had the healing of herself and the healing of others at the forefront of her mind and in everything she does. And I'm just really thankful to be a part of this event today. So I'd like for us all to start in a comfortable seated position. If we just sit, it's called easy seated pose, or called Sukhasana. You ground into the sits bones, that's the four corners of the base of the body, and get into this easy seated pose. And take a deep breath into the nose, feel the lung expand, feel the belly expand. Exhale through the mouth loud. And once again, take a deep breath into the nose, feel the lung expand, feel the belly expand. Exhale through the mouth loud. From here, we place the left hand to the heart and the right hand to the belly. The placement of palms in yoga is called a mudra. But what we're noticing here is the rise and fall of the diaphragm and the beating of the heart. Connecting with what's in your heart space, your heart center. Connecting with the rise and fall of the diaphragm, the breath. With the hands connected, take this time to set the intention for your practice. The intention can be what brought you here today, what you hope to gain. The intention can be something you're grateful for, as I'm grateful for you all joining us here today. The intention is something motivational, something to guide you back into the practice, back into today's event if the mind begins to wander, if the breath becomes ragged, if the intrusive thoughts, the to-do list, the distractions come into the consciousness, we come back to the intention to remind ourselves why we're here, what brought us here today, and what we hope to gain. And with the hands connected, once again, take a deep breath in through the nose, feel the lung expand, feel the belly expand. Take another sip of air at the very top and pause. Exhale loud. From here, the hand falls away from the heart. Let the hand fall away from the belly. Place the palms to the tops of the knees. As we come into Pratapana, which is the movement of the spine, it's Sanskrit for stoking the fire. And what this is linking breath to movement. When we inhale, we're expanding the body. When we exhale, we're contracting the body. And this is the basic rhythm for all yoga practices. So with the hands to the tops of the knees, let's inhale, shine the heart forward, tuck the head back. And exhale, rounding through, tucking the chin to the chest. Inhaling up, shining the heart forward, tucking the head back. And exhale, rounding through, tucking chin to chest. Using the palms to the knees as an anchor. Grounding to the sits bones, but this movement of the spine from the base of the skull. And as we inhale, shining the heart forward is when we find compassion, we radiate that outwards. And then we cast the breath, we cast the compassion towards ourselves as we round into the shoulders. Inhaling up, we find compassion outward. Exhale towards you, bring compassion towards yourself. We treat ourselves with the same compassion we treat others. Let's continue here at your own pace. Linking breath to movement. Exhale, rounding through. And inhale, shine the heart forward. And exhale, rounding through. Let's find a neutral spine on the inhale. As we zip up to the spine, we're going to find a rotation of the spine by hinging forward, inhaling up, and exhaling down. This is a rotation of the spine where your previous movement was forward and back. This is a rotation, rotating down, linking the breath to movement, inhaling up and exhaling down. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Let's switch directions. Folding at the waist, rotating the spine in a circle. Inhale, rise, and exhale, sink down. Continue here. Let's find a neutral spine on the inhale. From here, we sweep the palms up, reach, ignite the fingertips up to the sky. Exhale, float the right palm to the left knee to seated twist. When we come to the seated twist, the left arm comes behind the back as a secondary spine. Walk the palm of the left hand close to the low back. So the left arm supports the back, the gaze looks over the left shoulder. We take 5 cycles of breath. Now in Vinyasa yoga or any type of spine movement, on the inhale, we find length in the spine, so we're zipping up further. And on the exhale, we're sinking deeper into the twist. The back expands and the belly expands on the inhale. And the exhale, we let that all go. Sink deeper into the twist, the tension relieves from the spine. Hold it here. The sits bones are rooted to the mat, so both hips are firmly grounded to the earth. And on the last inhale, the palms rise, ignite the fingertips up to the sky, reach and stretch. Exhale, float the left palm to the right knee. The right arm comes behind the back as a secondary spine. So we're walking the right palm close to the low back. The gaze looks over the right shoulder. We take 5 cycles of breath. Inhale, lengthening to the spine. Exhale, sinking deeper into the twist. The back expands and the belly expands. The gaze looks over the right shoulder. And let's release the palms, come to the knees. Here we float the left palm to the earth, the right arm stretches overhead. Prajapata movement of the spine here. So the right palm faces the earth. We have a line of energy from the fingertip down to the hip. The sits bones stay rooted to the earth. Let's breathe. So we use the breath, and in yoga it's called the pranayama, the vital life force. We use the breath to deepen the stretch. With each inhale, the side body expands. With each exhale, we sink deeper into the posture. On the exhale, let's gently release. Float the right palm to the earth. From here, the left arm extends overhead. Line of energy from the fingertip down to the hip. The left side body opens, breathe. And gently release. We come to our seated posture once again. From here, we raise both arms, palms facing one another. Furling the right arm under the left. We could stay here, or if you'd like to go further and bring both palms together into eagle arms, you can stay here, or you can come right here. So if we come out, if you want to come out, we can furl them like this, and then around. It's called eagle arms. That's it, Benina, you got it. You're looking really good. On the inhale, the elbows rise. Exhale, hinge the hip forward, fold, push the elbows out and away from you, rounding to the spine. So we come into a seated fold. Breathe, tucking the chin to the chest. The upper body opens. The shoulder opens. Sinking deeper into the fold on the exhale. And from here on the next exhale, the elbows come towards you. Inhale, the elbows rise, push the elbows up and away. Exhale, sink the elbows down, unfurling palms, do prayer and pause, bring the palms to the heart center. And let's widen the arms out again. Same thing, opposite side. This time we're furling the left under the right, join the palms together. You got it. Excellent. Inhale, elbows rise. Exhale, hinge at the hip, forward fold, push the elbows out and away from you, rounding to the spine, tucking chin to chest. The upper back expands with each breath, the shoulder opens. We sink deeper into the fold on the exhale, pressing the elbows to the earth. And on the exhale, the elbows come towards you. Inhale, the elbows rise, push the elbows up and away. Exhale, sink the elbows down, unfurl palms, do prayer and pause, heart center. From here, the soles of the feet come together to bound angle butterfly. I can turn to the side. That might be a helpful way to view this posture. When we come into this posture, the palms rest to the ankles. Inhale, zip up to the spine. We hinge at the hip with a flat back forward fold. The head stays aligned to the spine until we find our edge or our challenging stretch. We can begin to round through the spine, tucking chin to chest. Sinking deeper into the fold on the exhale. Maybe pressing the elbows into the insides of the knees. We feel the hip open, breathe. And on the next inhale, we unhinge with a flat back. Place the palms to the knees. Fold the knees like the pages of a book and balance onto the sits bones. The shoulder blades come down the back. The heels can be down to the earth to support. At tabletop or to the full expression. Whichever you choose, pull the belly button to the spine with the shoulder blades relaxed down. Extend the arms forward. This is called boat posture. So this is warming up our core before we get into more spinal movements. Bring the palms to prayer. Cross the ankles. Roll forward into tabletop. When we come into tabletop, more Pratipana, the stoking the fire movement of the spine. Drop the belly, lift the gaze, inhale. Exhale, rounding through, tucking the chin to the chest. Inhaling up, shine the heart forward, tuck the head back. Exhaling down, rounding through, continue here. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. Inhaling up, drop the belly, lift the gaze. Exhaling down, rounding to the spine. Inhaling up. From here, we find a neutral spine on the inhale. Extending the right arm forward, thumb facing up, the left leg behind, toes pointing down. The fingers are spread wide to activate your hand, the foot is flexed. Take a deep breath in on the exhale, round to contract the elbow and the knee come together, tucking the chin and the nose. Inhale, lengthen and reach. Exhale, rounding through. Inhale, lengthen and reach. Exhale, rounding through, contract the body. Inhale, lengthen and reach, line of energy from finger to toe. Exhale, contracting. Inhale, lengthen and reach and pause for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Float the palm down, the knee follows. Return to cat-cow. Drop the belly, lift the gaze, inhale. Exhale, rounding through. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. Find a neutral spine on the next inhale. The left arm extends forward, thumb facing up, fingers spread wide. The right leg extends behind you, the foot is flexed and the toes point down. We focus the gaze. Take a deep breath in on the exhale, round through, contract. Inhale, lengthen and reach. Exhale, rounding through, tucking the chin, nose to the knee. Inhale, lengthen and reach. Exhale, rounding through. Inhale, lengthen and reach. Exhale, rounding through, tucking the chin and the nose to the knee. Inhale, reach, line of energy from finger to toe, hold it here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Float the palm down. Bring the toes together, the big toes. We sink back into child's pose. Walk the hands forward, bow the head and close the eyes. So we humble ourselves down to our mats, down to the earth. Come back to the intention for the practice. Take a deep breath in, fill the belly all the way to the top with air. On the exhale, walk the hands off of the mat to the left-hand side, shifting the weight into the right hip. Feel the right side of the body open, breathe. Walking the fingers further on the exhale. Visualizing the breath coming into the space between the shoulder and the hip. Walking the hands back to the center, same thing, opposite side. Shifting the weight into the left hip, the left side of the body opens, breathe. And inhaling the hands back to the center. We curl the toes under, push up to downward facing dog. All four corners of the palm are rooted into the earth. So begin to pedal the heels, walking the dog out, as they say, shifting the weight from side to side. From here, we walk the hands back towards the body, standing forward fold. Grab the elbows overhead, dangle loosely. Close the eyes, shaking the head yes and shaking the head no. Shifting the weight from side to side. We release the elbows, tucking the chin into the chest. Let the arms dangle. Let's roll up one vertebrae at a time, nice and slow. Feeling the spine up bone by bone. The head is the last to rise when it does. Float the palms overhead. Connect the palms overhead here, lifting the gaze. Exhale, push to the hip and reach, lengthen to the spine. Reach and stretch, standing half moon. Inhale back to the center, exhale, opposite side. And we come back to the center with a slight back bend. Exhale, lead with your heart as you swan dive back to the earth. We link the breath to movement by inhaling halfway up, the palms come to the shins. Exhaling down, step the feet back to down dog. Bring the knees down to the earth and pause in the tabletop. Take a few more rounds of cat-cow, drop the belly, lift the gaze, inhale. Exhale, rounding through, tucking chin to chest. Inhaling up, drop the belly, lift the gaze. And exhale to a neutral spine. From here, the shins rise. As we hinge at the elbow, touch the chest and the chin to the earth. So we look like an inchworm. It's called pranam. Both the shins down to the mat. The palms are stacked under the shoulders. The elbows raise the midline. We inhale, the chest rises to cobra pose. Take a deep breath in on the exhale. We look over to the left. Back to the center, over to the right. Movement of the spine from the base of the skull down to the sacrum. Back to the center. Return to tabletop. From tabletop, we curl over the toes. Downward facing dog. Take a deep breath in on the exhale. Walk the hands back towards the body to standing forward fold, or maybe walking the feet towards the hands, wherever you are. Grab the elbows overhead, dangle loosely, shaking the head yes, shaking the head no. With the eyes closed, release the elbows, let the arms dangle. Roll up one vertebrae at a time, nice and slow. Peeling the spine up vertebrae by vertebrae. And the head is the last to rise. When it does, flip the palms overhead, connect the mudra here, lift the gaze. Exhale, push to the hip and reach, lengthen to the spine. Inhale back to the center, opposite side. And back to the center once again with a slight back bend. Exhale, lead with your heart, swan dive to the earth. Inhaling halfway of lengthen. Exhaling down, return to down dog, either walking the hands forward, the feet behind. We come back into tabletop. From tabletop, drop the belly, lift the gaze, inhale. Exhale, rounding through, tucking the chin to the chest. Inhaling up. And exhaling down, rounding through. Find a neutral spine on the next inhale. As the shins rise, hinging at the elbows, touch the chest and the chin to the earth to pranam. Both the shins down to the mat, palms are stacked under the shoulders. Inhale, shoulders rise, press to the chest. Cobra pose. Looking over to the left. Looking over to the right. So we come back to the center, return to tabletop. And let's return to our seated pose. Get into our easy seated posture once again. Sukhasana. Benita, you're looking good out there. Together with me, rub the palms together. We rub the palms together in anticipation of all good things to come throughout the rest of our session, throughout the rest of our day, into our week, our month, and our year. The palms are warm. Inhale, palms rise, lift the gaze. Exhale, return the palms to prayer heart center. Come back to the intention. What brought you here today? Come back to your gratitude with the hands connected. Take this time to come up with 3 personal strengths. Whether you're creative, you're kind, helpful, funny, smart. Come to these personal strengths. Let them resonate with you today here in our session. Keep these personal strengths close to your heart to know that these are the protective factors that help you overcome obstacles and give us the confidence to succeed. And inhale, palms rise with the gaze. Floating the palms down to the knees. Let's return to our movement of the spine once again. Inhale, shine the heart forward. Exhale down. Rounding through. And inhaling up. Exhale, rounding through. Let's roll the neck out a few times. This is something that can be done easily seated at your desk, in the car. Well, maybe not the car, maybe not driving, but you get my drift. Rounding through. Let's sink the left ear to the left shoulder. The right palm comes as a gentle weight to the side of the head. Walk the right fingertips away. Angling the ear down towards the body, getting the deepest stretch. And gently release, exhaling down and inhaling up, side to side, linking breath to movement. Exhaling down, inhaling up. Let's release the right ear to the right shoulder. The right palm comes to the left side of the head. Walking the fingertips away. Breathe. And gently release. Inhale, the palms rise. Connecting the right palm to the left knee, coming to our seated twist, noticing anything different from before. We inhale, ignite the fingertips to the sky. Exhale, rounding through. And we come back to the center for one last breath, in and up. Exhale, bring the palms to prayer to the heart center. As we come back to our intention, come back to our personal strengths. We take a deep breath into the nose, the lung expands, the belly expands. Exhale loud. Take this time to thank yourself for dedicating this time to your personal enrichment. Take this time to thank yourself for practicing with the neat people and in a safe space. Find a moment of comfort, find a moment of joy. And feeling calm, strong, loose, and relaxed, we go back into our session. Thank you so much for joining me today, and go in peace. Namaste. Thank you, Benita. I hope that was all right for everybody. Thank you for letting me be here so much.
Namaste. Oh my gosh, that was so exciting. I haven't done yoga in a long time. My body needed that.
I feel better too. Thank you for letting me do that. In all my
Yes.
10 years of teaching, that's my first online session I think I've ever done. So
Oh my God, you did an awesome job. It was amazing. It was truly amazing.
thank you. Well, Benita, you inspire me. You always have. You've always helped me. Thank you for letting me be a part of your event. I'm excited to hear what else we have in store for today.
Thank you so much, Katie, for taking time to join us today. Your energy is infectious. That was amazing. My body feels awesome.
Thank you.
I feel great. So does anybody want to come off mute and say thank you to Katie? Let's say thank you to Katie, guys. Okay, and so now that we've talked all about the Energy Harvest workbook, talked about how you can heal your trauma, talked about the importance of aligning your mind, your body, and your soul through yoga. And so now, as we move forward, we're a little ahead of schedule today. And so if anybody would like to comment on anything that has taken place, any thoughts you may have had so far, what you're thinking in terms of the energy harvest, in terms of your own personal trauma, just want to open the floor right now just for sharing for anybody that'd like to take this opportunity to talk about what you've heard so far. How are you feeling? Come on, check in with me, check in with me.
Sorry, this is Kendra. I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm struggling. But it's more of a question.
Reactions over to the side. When you see reactions on the bottom, you click on reactions.
Ah, there it is. Got it. Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you. Thank you.
Kim's in the house.
All right, you see my hand?
I see your hand. I'm acknowledging your hand.
Thank you. Quick question. I know you were going over the different phases of the workbook. You were saying like set, achieve. I can't remember all of them, but you were going over those. I'm curious, as we work through the workbook, is each phase like the same amount of time? Is it something that we might, different paces, something we might achieve a little faster than others? Like, how does it work as far as, do you think, the pace of the entire workbook?
That's a great question, Kendra. You know, just like it took years to develop the patterns from our trauma. And so quite naturally, we're not going to be able to heal them overnight. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand is that this is a process. And like with any other process, it takes time for step 1 to step 2 to step 3, you know what I'm saying? And so as you move through, the first part of the book is the self-assessment. You know, that's where you have to come to grips with yourself. Do you even have a spiritual injury? Some of the questions that we ask in that self-assessment are set up to help you see exactly where you're hurting, how you're hurting. And then as you move through each section, it's not a race at all. It's not a competition at all. There are no right or wrong answers. That's what I like about it. There aren't any right or wrong answers. And so let's say you get through, you already know, yes, I've been traumatized. Oh my God, I'm ready for healing. You might zip all the way through the self-assessment, make a commitment to yourself and just hit it with the identify phase. And then, you know, you might slow up a little bit, you know, in the set phase. And then, you know, life shows up. Life is still going to show up, and there will still be challenges that you have to take care of as you're healing your past trauma. So what we want to do is make sure you're not doing things to continue to cause trauma to your life, but you have to be realistic. How much time can you allow to this process between work, between the husband, between the kids, between college, between just self-care? When will you have time? This is a time commitment as well as it is a healing commitment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I just,
Thank
the
you.
best thing is just don't stop. Just don't stop. Even if you're only answering 2 questions a week, just don't stop once you get started, because once that momentum gets going, it might be difficult, you know, or once you stop the momentum, it might be difficult to get started again. So once you get started, just don't stop. Just commit to this. And I promise you, this is the best commitment that you will ever make to your life. And you'll definitely see the benefits. You'll see the benefits long before you're finished. You know what I'm saying? And so that ought to give you something else for your momentum to keep you going, because you see that it's working in your life. Your thinking is different. You're peaceful. You know what I'm thinking? Things that used to bother you don't bother you as much anymore. Things like that, you have more happy days than sad days. And things like that are the indicators that'll show you that this is actually working for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that great question. Who else has a question?
I have a question, Benita.
Sure.
What do you do? You've talked about ruminating thoughts. That's something that I struggle with sometimes as well. What do you do when you have ruminating thoughts that are distracting you from getting your task done, or that are just, quite honestly, you know, really bothering you? I don't have a workbook, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, so what I do when I have ruminating thoughts or thoughts that are just trying to be overbearing in my life, I take a minute and I just stop. I just take a minute and just stop and find out, what are these thoughts saying to me? See, I used to just try to ignore them. I used to try to just block them out and run from them. Now I want to hear what they're telling me, because see, my thoughts will tell me where it's about to try to attack me if I'll just listen to them. Like if they say, oh, you're looking ugly today, I see those wrinkles. Oh, so now you want to start attacking my self-image. I got you. Now I'm going to go do something to promote my self-image. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to go get a facial. I'm going to go and get my makeup done. I'm going to go, you know, whatever the case may be. See, when I find out what part of me my thinking is attacking, then I know what to do to combat it. But before that happens, before you're able to identify them, because they can be so frightening and debilitating, you see what I'm saying? And lead you back into the closet where you're scared, or under the bed is where I always go emotionally in my mind, is under the bed. And so I have to, when I wake up in the morning, if my thoughts are already there waiting for me to wake up, as soon as I wake up and I see them there sitting on my bed waiting for me, I have to go into my routine. See, I have a spiritual routine. I have a spiritual practice. And when I wake up, if they're already there ready to bombard me, I know I need to go drink my moon water, because I drink moon water. I set 2 gallons of water out under the full moon, and I season my water. It's like vitamin water for my spirit. And so I drink my moon water. I say my intentions. I take whatever medication I need to take, and I put on affirmations. Like if it's saying, oh, you're not going to be able to retire, you're going to be poor for the rest of your life. What? If you don't get a man, you're going to be poor. You're not, what? So then I'll go and listen to affirmations on wealth building. You know, I attract money. Money comes to me. I am wealthy. You know, those kinds of things. I have to combat those thoughts by putting new thoughts in, by programming my mind. When I sleep at night, when I'm most vulnerable is when we are asleep, because our subconscious is awake and our conscious mind is not available to protect it. So I don't listen to the TV when I go to sleep at night, because that programming is programming me. So what I do is I take that opportunity to listen to frequencies. You know, Nikola Tesla has a 369 hertz frequency that I listen to. Jason Stevenson does I am meditations for sleep. So I will go there and I find those things that promote growth and healing and reprogramming while I'm sleeping. So I take every chance I get. I'm not confused about the fact that I need help and that it comes in so many ways. And so that's part of the getting set for your journey, getting set to achieve is finding out all of these things that you can use to combat those intrusive ruminating thoughts.
I like that. It reminds me of if you've ever heard the phrase, when you stare into the abyss stares into you. Like, you have to be mindful of what you consume, because it can continue, it will seep into the latent content of your mind. And I like that. And it sounds like kind of like you're building a muscle. If the dark thoughts or the ruminating thoughts are negative or there, you have to exercise a positive thought muscle to like counter that. So I like that. Thank you for explaining that to me. You've always been a voice of reason to me, and I really appreciate your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I never even thought about the mind muscles like that. So that was really cool. I think I'll use that.
Go for it.
Anybody else got any questions or anything you'd like to say right now? We still got a few more minutes. I tell you, I'm just enjoying myself. I'm just so enjoying myself. And what I want to do is I'm gonna read something from the book. Would you guys like that?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's see what we have here. Oh, here we go. Okay. We'll start here, okay? This is in the, what section am I in? I think this might be the introduction. Yes, I'm in the introduction of the book. And so that's where you're going to find what I'm reading. I think it's on page 19. So let's see. Spiritual injuries trigger trauma. Trauma is a shock to your entire system that locks energy into your cells, muscles, organs, mind, emotions, and spirit. Imagine a car accident. When two automobiles collide, they will not be in their original state, right? If you're anything like me, you have suffered spiritual injuries in one form or another, whether direct or indirect. The consequences and the feelings of shame, guilt, anger, and remorse are the same. Most spiritual injuries take place so young in life that by the time you discover the residual effects, it's too late. You've already become a product of your trauma. At the time of trauma, the emotional, mental, and spiritual and physical energy that was in play is thrusted together and broken around each other in a baffling manner. The components are shocked together, inextricably tied and bound by the energy trapped within. That traumatic moment of time is forever frozen within the mind, body, and spirit of the injured soul, creating a mental loop that will adversely affect the emotional and psychological responses. What I mean is the trauma patterns that have developed because the sustained injuries have developed in such a manner that you are unable to see the illusions that act as censors to lull you back to sleep when reality begins to creep in. Unless the spiritual injury can be detected, treated, the special type of healing that is needed is never realized. Trauma becomes the lens from which life is endured and the blueprint for the mental programming on which life will be predicated. Spiritual injuries and our natural trauma response to them determine our beliefs and the agreements that we make with ourselves. The pain of living such injuries drives the wounded soul to create habits and patterns designed to numb the feelings of inadequacy, depression, lack of motivation, and fear of lack of economic standing. Destructive patterns and habits are created by the mind and used to escape the painful reality of life. The patterns are interwoven into the fabric of your life so that they are not easily detected. After a rough day at the office or after being home all day with the children, you go to the kitchen and you reach up into that cabinet. You know the one over the refrigerator. And you bring down the big bag of cookies with the idea of eating just one as you finish up the dishes. Before you know it, you look down and more than half the first sleeves of cookies is missing, and yet you only remember eating the first one. Does that sound familiar? Sure enough, tricking yourself that a mouthful of brownie is just what you need to make you feel better, even if for the moment, the extra pounds are worth it, you tell yourself. You tell yourself one more won't hurt as you bargain with yourself, anything not to feel those feelings. Most often, the spiritual injuries occur at an early age in life and manifest in a variety of mannerisms, and behaviors in a continuous effort to the subconscious mind to reconcile the initial injury. The lens from which you view life and everyone in it is skewed based on the residual lasting impression of the first time for everything. Don't you remember your first boyfriend, your first pair of stockings, the first pair of heels, first time he broke your heart, the first time, those kinds of traumatic things happen. And also the first times for the good things happen, and we remember those as well. And so what happens is the mind tries to perpetuate or recreate the good times and tries to reconcile or suppress the bad times. And so either way, you're in a loop, you're in a mental loop, and you're recreating these situations time and time again so that you can either have the same outcome as the happy or a different outcome than the sad. But either way, you're locked into a loop that's not going to heal you, that it only continues to utilize that same energy to keep you locked in that loop. No new energy can come in and no old energy can come out in that type of a loop because it feeds on each other, right? So the lens from which you view life, we said it's going to be skewed based on the residual lasting impressions of the first time for anything. For every first time we have experienced and filed away, the mind developed a mental program attempting to replicate the euphoria or reconcile the pain from the encounter. This creates an obsessive loop which perpetuates the trauma. The mental pursuit to reconcile the spiritual injury or replicate the euphoria cannot be controlled regardless of the pain or pleasure of the behavior. In my experience, the pleasure of such pursuits eventually becomes the pain, and the mind's need to replicate and reconcile will drive some good people to insanity. Now, from that point onward, the total personality is developed around the trauma. Thoughts, desires, and behavior are all part of that mental program. The thoughts, emotions, and actions are all patterns that recreate the crime scene in some manner. And when I say the crime scene, I talk about where you first where you first endured your spiritual injuries. That is the crime scene. And so when it talks about the crime scene, we're talking about going back to that place, back, to when that happened. And from the auto programming that happens in the mental background to the day-to-day activities that feel life, a broken child is hidden away and is begging to be healed. Okay, and so you go on as best you can, haunted by the memory of the spiritual wounds you were too young to understand, wounds your tiny body was too young to endure. Your tiny spirit was broken, hurt through the neglect, emotional, psychological, and physical abuse. Your fragile personality was fractured by negative words of rejection, often by those you trusted and loved the most. You never really completely heal. You're always healing because the mind and the trauma is such a tricksy, little relationship. The mind will continue to remind you of these, and there's nothing that we can keep them. There's no way we can keep the mind from reminding of this, but through our healing, we can stop the feelings and stop the behavior that used to accompany the thoughts. We can move into positive action so that we don't have to continue to re-traumatize ourselves. This is after the healing has begun. Based on your limited understanding and inability to appropriately navigate the thoughts and feelings, you created a psychological and emotional mask. You erected invisible walls. You developed idiosyncrasies to hide your guilt and shame from others and from yourself. Based on these feelings and actions, you developed your inner defense mechanisms, complete with all the bells and whistles. This created a foundation on which you made your decisions and built your personality. From places you go to the people whom you associate, your likes and dislikes and self-image, you viewed everything from a lens of shame, inadequacy, and spiritual absence or brokenness. Often, you feel others viewed you the same way. This became your belief system. Does this sound familiar? And these are the kinds of things that I'm asking you to take a look in your life, to be able to identify these types of injuries so that you can see how much healing that you need. And the self-assessment that I was telling you about is going to ask you those questions and help you prepare for your healing that's going to come as you move through the book. And it's just been my honor to share this little piece with you. And I hope that if you haven't gotten the book, that you will, and that if you have gotten the book, that you've already started. I believe in you, and you are worthy of your healing. And I'm so happy, that I was able to write this book, that God gave this book to me so that I could help others heal just as well as I was healing myself. And so that brings us to the end of this portion. And I am excited about our next light worker, Dr. Dottie Simpson Taylor. She's going to come to us now and talk about the soul injuries and the work that she's doing, guide us in a meditation. And let's see if she's ready. Dr. Dottie, are you ready to join us today?
I am ready to join. My picture is not coming up and I don't know what to do about it, but I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
And say hello to everybody. And hopefully I'll be able to pull up my PowerPoint.
Okay.
That come up?
I don't see anything just yet. I'm going to stop the sharing. I'll stop the recording for right now until we can get yours set up, and then we'll start it back again, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Oh my God, thank you guys so much. I'm having such a great time today. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to move forward now, and I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Dottie Simpson Taylor, and she has a wonderful presentation that she's going to share with us today. And so, with no further ado.
Let me just say a few words. For some time now, I've been talking and dealing with issues of soul repair and how one loves oneself even more. A lot of times what we do is we say we love ourselves, but we really, as I was saying earlier, are not present for ourselves. We're always talking about being present for other people. We encourage other people. We give people grace. We are gracious with others. We're often gentle and genuine and generous with others. But when it comes down to who I am, sometimes I'm my worst critic. And especially in times when things feel like they're just not working quite like they had oughta. And so when things happen in our lives, we tend to look at life and things do happen because life ain't easy. Living ain't easy. And when I think back over all of our lives, anything has happened. So many things that we've had grief in so many kind of ways. We've had surprises. We've had disappointments. We've had ups. We've had downs. We've had opportunities that, I look around and I say, I should have done, or we get excited about something. And then we said, but I wonder if I could have. So we're always kind of second guessing how we take care of ourselves. And I want to take a moment and spend some time just thinking about um, phenomenal woman, Maya Angelou. I am a phenomenal woman. When was the last time, or the first time? Think back upon the first time that you heard phenomenal woman and heard her, and most of us have heard her uh, recite the poem, and we also heard baby girl talk about and still I rise, and we still think, wow, there's something about who I am that is really special. And so I want to take a minute and just ask all of us to let go of some of the conversations about how things are not and think about how things are. So this conversation is a mind, body, soul conversation. Can we move on? So we're going to define, we're going to talk about the power of art and ritual. We're going to talk about the role of communities, because one of the things that we have in our lives is that there's the whole idea about who I am is a spiritual journey. And what we're going to do, what I'm going to talk about here, is kind of like spiritual first aid for trauma, how I can bless my own existence in a way. And bless is actually BLESS. Um, and it goes with our core needs from, back in the day when somebody said we have belonging, we have livelihood, we have emotional issues, we long for safety, we have spiritual needs. And how do we get those? We have their core needs that we have in terms of having spiritual first aid, because life happens and life ain't no crystal stair. Things go up and down, and sometimes it feels like I'm in the abyss all the time. But I want to say that we have the power to be the difference in our lives. And I think that some of the things is the role of our communities to help us with that. And we live in multiple communities. We live in our community gives us ideas about whether it's family or the place that we live or the community that we work in or whatever. We and that's in the community tells us certain morals, certain values, certain expectations that they tell us, and then we tend to absorb or not absorb them into our own lives. And we also have the public that will try to tell us what to do too, and we see when things are causing spiritual distress, because in like right now, we got these young Black boys who are getting killed, and ain't nobody, and it seemed like every time something happened, ain't nobody paying no attention, except for those of us who are saying that could be my child, that could be my nephew, that could be, in my case, my great grandchild. And I'm worried to death that my great great grandchildren will end up in the same kind of plight that I'm worried about for my grandchildren, and that I was worried about for my 53-year-old son when he was 9 years old. And race was, no, he was 7 years old when he was faced with race for the first time. And I watched it happen. And I recognized that I had to give my 7-year-old the talk. It's a painful thing. My voice just kind of caught because I thought about, when did we have to learn the talk for ourselves? So that there are implications for understanding how we live in our community. There is something that is, I want to say it's a faith-based conversation. And we have to begin to think about, from the community, from the public, from our faith, how are we beginning to have a dialogue about how we live in the spaces that we live in? Because living ain't easy. There's a study that's called the ACE, the childhood study, and where in this study they're saying that in a child's life, if we, just going back and living our lives, we have invisible wounds just living from birth to death. Let me give you a funny. As a female, just think about this. One of the traumas that we would have is that I wrote an article not too long ago, or a couple of years ago, that's called The Diaper Dilemma. Just start laughing right now, y'all with me. Can you think about it? There's only about 11 years of the life of a female that we don't have to wear a diaper of some sort. Just think about it. Now, see, V, I see you laughing already. And now some of you, I can't see your faces, but just think about it. That's traumatic. if you really have to think about it, you start out wearing a diaper, but you'd be 4 years old and you still peeing on yourself and see if somebody want to have a hissy on you. Then you stop peeing, and then something happens between the ages of 9 and 12, and it's like you feel like somebody, if you don't know nobody tell you, you think you're dying. Then you got to go through this whole thing, and then you get into your, you go through your teen years, and you worry that I got to make sure it's still coming, and then you get into like your mid 40s, and midlife happens and stuff starts trickling and comes and goes. You get around, and then it stops around 50. Okay. Get close to that 60 point, something starts dripping again. And you have to start wearing other little kind of diaper things. I'm 79. I'll be 79 in June, y'all. My whole thing is I don't want to have to wear a full-size pamper until I'm 90. You hear me? Not until I'm 90. But we think this diaper dilemma, and we think about it as the passages of life. And I just want to say the issues around pathways to trauma recovery is also sometimes we get stuck into the ain't it awfuls, and sometimes we don't think about life ain't no crystal stair. I'm divorced like so many other people. I've lost my parents like so many other people. When it happens to me personally, I'm devastated. But I cannot afford to stay there because everybody's got a backstory. Maya Angelou says that there is no agony like bearing an untold story inside of you. And sometimes when we're looking at people, we don't know what their backstory might be. We don't know what the pain that they may have experienced. And so whether it's a heart pain, whether it's an illness pain, whether it's a life change pain, whether it's, in my case, in terms of working with veterans, it has to do with war pains or other kinds of traumatic injury kinds of things that happens as a result of when you're first responders. The fact that many of there was a plethora, and I use this word not very often, but really, there's a whole lot of healthcare professionals that got out of the field or took their lives during COVID because they felt like they were not doing their job because they couldn't save enough people from the death of COVID. And that's some of the untold secrets in the world. So there's a whole idea, this whole notion about moral injury and soul repair. We it's something that's not talked about, but it's there. And it's more than just life happening sometimes. Sometimes it can be too enduring. Next slide, please. So when I think about this definition of moral injury, it's a response to some experience where the core moral foundation or faith or my faith, I just can't justify it. I can't contextualize it. I can't even put it into words so that I can have some meaningful understanding for it. I don't see any hope for my future. I don't even see how I can be sustained through it. And so sometimes when things happen, sometimes it's so extreme. I can have done it myself. I could be witnessing something. I could be imagining something. I could be failing. I could have failed to prevent something from happening. But whatever it is, it violates my personal, ethical, and social life. So I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling guilt. I'm feeling remorse. I mean, I recently, because I've been divorced for a long time now, I was beginning to feel at 70, I said, I'd like to have somebody. I just want to put this out there, y'all. Find me somebody over 70, male, who can help me to make and fly a kite. I don't ask for much. I just want to learn how to make and fly a kite because I would like to be chosen as a special somebody to do something special with so that I don't get stuck in this, like, there's something wrong with me. But what happens so many times when we feel this stuck, we can get, we grieve a lot, we get poor health, we feel isolated. In some cases, it leads to some violence. And most of the research that has dealt with veterans has led to self-harm or harm to others and if I look back over and I think about the young people and the families that I've talked with, where we've seen young Black children either shoot or kill or have been killed. These families are traumatized. I do not trust everybody who says that they're working with trauma with families because they're accusatory. Have you ever been listening to somebody and they're adulterizing our children? That man who shot that little boy who was went to the wrong house to pick up his brother, and it was the wrong house, and the man shot him twice. Just think about it. He said he was black and he was big. There was a child. Does that make that right for him and there are people who say, well, black kids shouldn't be out there. White kids do it too. And I'm not trying to make this a race issue, but I'm just saying this whole notion about this trauma that we're experiencing in life, everybody is experiencing it in some way or another. It's how we handle it. Can we go to the next slide? So the next slide kind of talks about how this happens. And I call it a resilience conversation. So there's an event. It can be a life and death choice. It can be an act of violence. It can be witnessing something, not protecting something, or seeing somebody else doing something, or in some cases, dehumanizing somebody else. And it's messed with the whole moral fiber of who I am, and I should not be involved in it, or I should not have even know about it. And so we're trying to figure out, well, what do I do about it? There's this faith struggle that we have sometimes about knowing about some things that have transgressed our moral code. And if it's moral injury, it can be both religious and it can be psychological. It can be religious in that we feel a loss of faith. It questions, okay, if I'm saying that I'm a person of faith, how did I get away from my own beliefs so that I was even a part of something like this? And then if it's psychological, I'm going through some changes. I feel shame. I feel betrayed. I feel a loss of trust. I've heard Black men say, and Black women this and Black women that. And many of my clients, by the way, have been men. And now you're going to sit there and talk about Black women to me. I don't think so, and get away with it. But on the other hand, that's not my job to sit there and try to tell this wounded spirit that they're wrong. What my job is to sit there and listen to this feeling of betrayal, to this feeling of loss of trust, of this feeling of not being able to find meaning for or purpose for my going on in my life, for trying to sort through what did I do or what didn't I do that could have made this different. So on the other side, that's moral injury. It could move over into something called post-traumatic stress, where we see depression and anxiety, or people drink, a whole lot of relationship problems, even some things that can happen also as a physical disabilities. We see people with heart attacks, blood pressure goes up. We see people will actually, their limbs stop moving. Next slide, please. So the question is, who are we? How do we come to grips with what we've seen or done? How do we make sense of this? And in some cases for veterans, it's how do I come home to a nation that either ignores us or blindly praises us for our service? I'm a veteran, you all. I don't like when I go someplace and I'm with my son and somebody will ask my son if he served, and he's my son. He did not serve. And you talk about veterans. Why didn't you ask me, did I serve? Now that's something that for women veterans, it's a big issue. But for men, we also have we're in a nation where the service is, people look down on people. We know we need an armed services, but if somebody gets ready to join, people say, well, if they're going to turn you into this or they're going to turn you into that. I'm my hands are up beside my head now, y'all, because I'm saying, who am I to try to stifle someone else's dream? What would happen? What happens to me when someone tries to stifle my dream? I do want to ask us to think about. Don't make me feel guilty and feel shame. Don't make me feel like my identity is based upon my circumstance. So the question is, how do we live with this moral injury? Let's go forward. And you'll see in this next thing, there's the emotional response, there's relational response, there's thoughts about self, there's behavioral responses, and there's thoughts about life. I don't need to read this to you because you can see that under emotional responses, we get enough anger and loss of joy. But have you thought about the loss of honor? The loss of, I don't have nothing that I can deal with but my name. And that's one of the things that happens when people lie on you. I've heard people say, I can't believe, where did that lie come from? I remember being at one point in my life, and maybe you have too, when heard something that somebody said, you said, and you try to figure out, well, when did I say it? How did I say it? Where did I say it? And somebody, again, what they've done is they've wounded your word, wounded my word. And integrity is what I value most. I want people to know that I'm honest. So then I move forward, and I may have an unforgiveness kind of thing. But when I start, can we go back again to that slide? Can you go backwards? So I began to think about myself, where I can't be trusted. I'm hopeless because I seem to be stuck in a particular kind of way. There are behavioral responses. I seem to be unable to calm myself down. I'm impulsive. And sometimes we tend to it doesn't take much to make me burst into tears or to go off on somebody, or even just to be silent when I really should be speaking up for myself. And then this last one about thoughts about life, when somebody says God is not good, life has no meaning. And those are moral injury responses. Those are things that happen to us sometimes when my spirit is so troubled. Can we do the next slide now? So the next slide kind of talks about what do we do in order to recover from some of this. First of all, I want to talk about spiritual first aid. Before I get to that, I'm just going to say there's something called spiritual first aid. And I talked about that earlier, about the BLESS method. We have core needs. I want to belong. I want to feel like I'm productive with a livelihood. I want to feel emotional. I know that I have emotional feelings, and it comes and goes. That's some stability that I'd like to have. I'd like to feel safe. And I'd like to feel that something is greater than me making decisions. So this is the BLESS method of the core needs. What I have to begin to do is to listen. So I have to, there's four things that I just want. AAAR. So I have to attend. So I have to look at what is it that I'm talking about. I have to ask a question. Who am I talking about? Why am I saying this? I have to act upon it. How do I make this happen? I'm going to shut my door here because I have company coming. Hold on. Thanks for that, for allowing me to do that. So I had to get up a minute because I'm not at my house. I'm in Iowa taking care of my sister. But this forgiveness piece is that I have to remember, one of the things that we don't do really well is we don't forgive ourselves. We forgive everything around us. But first, I have to forgive myself. And that's the hardest thing in the whole world for so many people. For me to do, it may be for you. I don't know where you are with that, but this lament, these three things are to do this recovery in terms of instilling and being strong again morally and spiritually. There's a whole book in the Bible about lamentations, crying out, pleading, just saying this happened and this happened. It's okay to say this happened. Y'all know one of the things that I love about the blues and Miles Mabley was she said the naked truth in the blues. Think about a song that when you start thinking about my life, what is a song or a poem or something that works for you, that as you say, Oh, this is the story of my life. Mm, mm, mm. You know, there was one song, "People get ready, there's a train a coming, picking up passengers coast to coast." Well, y'all need to know I'm a Motown child. I was stationed at an Air Force base close to Detroit during Smokey Robinson time. I was like, hey, in hog heaven, so to speak. And the only thing I love to do is dance. And so, I mean, I did my job with the military, but I was really loving being in Detroit next to everything that was Motown. I remember though, those songs that touched my spirit, touched my soul. And right now, I know somebody's got a song in your head, in your heart, that is telling you who you are and who, you know, and how that speaks to you and speaks to your spirit. Next slide, please. So part of what we have to do is to, I'm suggesting that we begin to let go. So, you know, I said we don't forgive, but sometimes we don't let go. It doesn't mean stop caring. It says, I can't do it for nobody else right now. I got to do it for me. It's not to cut myself off. It's I can't control anything else but me. It's not to allow, it's not to enable me in any kind of way to keep, you know, to say, oh, well, you know, that's just the way it is. But I can learn from whatever just happens. Let go, I'm moving down this line here, is let go is not to deny, but to accept that something else is going on in my life. I don't have to nag or scold or argue, but sometimes I can just say, well, you know, I do have a rule. As Daddy said, everybody got a wrinkle. We all got something that we just can't see. And sometimes I need to look at myself before I begin. You know, this one finger that's be pointing out and you got this whole 2x4 in your own eye, you know, and because you got 3 fingers and a thumb that's sticking up and the 2x4 in your eye. Now, wait a minute. Well, who am I to cast blame on somebody else? I need to stop nagging or scolding, but look at myself and say, what can I do to make me better? And I have to let go is not to regret the past, but to grow and to live for the future. I can shape the future. Like in 2010, I had been married 46 years, you all, and I got a divorce. Yeah. But guess what? It made me stronger because I was like, I didn't intend to enter into my senior years, my retirement years single. So that's also why I need somebody, y'all, to who can help me to make and fly a kite. Just going back to that again. Um, don't want everybody need to have their own address. Okay. Everybody need to have their own address and their own key and all that other kind of stuff to their own place. I don't want none of that. I just want to be able to make and fly a kite and have a phone conversation every now and then. But to let go is to fear less and to love more. And I don't mean loving something else, but to love me more. Thank you. Let's next slide. So one of the things that works best with this is something that we call to do deep listening, and again to be fully present for myself. What to be fully present with what is happening in the moment without trying to control it or judge it. I just want to just be right here. You know, I have a favorite story about a little baby who was at the bottom of there was a party at that parents had given, and that, you know, some houses after my house that I was raised in, and I'm happen to be at the house now, has a stairwell, and there's steep stairs, and so the people would be in the living room, and you can think about the baby coming down, about 4 years or 5 years old, saying, "Mama," you know, and Mama says, "Go back upstairs." I said, "I'm going to talk to you in a minute." Baby comes down the stairs, down to the halfway down, "Mama," and Mom says, I told you I'm coming." Baby finally gets all the way down to the bottom of the stairs and comes to the floor. And baby says, "Mama," and pulls my skirt. And Mama turns around, and the baby, and she says, "I'm listening." And the baby says, "Come here, Mama," and puts I put my hands, my baby puts my hands around my face and says, but mama, listen with your heart. How often do we listen to ourselves with our heart? Because there's nothing like the spirit wound. And so I'm going to ask myself, am I listening to who I am so that I'm being present for me? To be effective, to be fresh, to be alert, to remain calm, to be receptive to what's going on in my life. Sometimes, we ask, we have expectations of other people. And so we have this plate of things that they have to come to us on. But do we ever do an investigation about what we offer? What do I have that I'm asking other people to do this? Am I meeting my own criteria? So I'm asking us to do this deep listening so that we can be focused on taking care of ourselves. Can we look at the next slide? Because this one is the next slide. It doesn't apply just to communication with other people, but listening to myself. Deep listening is listening intently and openly without analyzing or trying to figure it out. Deep listening is being true to one spirit, to my own spirit. Let go of any beliefs about how anybody else ought to be, but let go of my prejudices and even let go of the prejudices about what's supposed to happen with me at the age that I am or at this point in my life. Because so many other people set goals for me. When do we take time to set those same kind of goals for ourselves? Do not imagine that I'm analyzing what I hear. Just listen with some awareness. And my radar has to be open so that I can be a satellite dish, so that I stay turned on and receive what is coming at me. Can we do the next slide? This is the final, just about, we're over. And this is the mindfulness exercise that I had promised that I would do. So when we're talking about this mindfulness, we're going to step out of autopilot to bring awareness to what we're doing, thinking, and sensing. And if I take a pause and try to be comfortable, but a dignified posture, noticing that the thoughts that come up and acknowledge my own feelings and letting them pass, I tune into me and I see myself for who I am and what's going on in my head right now. I don't have time to go through all of this, but I'm just saying, this is a really neat, quick 3-step mindfulness exercise. So if I begin to take 6 breaths, I'm beginning to be more aware of what's going on with my life. Inhale and exhale. I'm not asking us to do this right now. I'm just going to talk through it. The goal is to focus attention on one thing. My breathing is to be aware of what my body is doing with each breath, and to be aware of how my chest rises and falls, and to find the pattern of my breaths and to anchor myself again in being present for me and being present with who I am. Step 3 is to expand this awareness outward so that I can tie my body to the environment that's around me. I am in the dining room of the house that I was raised at. I am at a table that would sit 15 people, and we used to eat out of platters. And this is some comfort for me because this is where I was raised. This is where my family was, it feels so good to be home. And I can see the table sitting here, Mama and Daddy sitting at the table. Mama got biscuits and all kinds of, and Lord have mercy, and syrup and just, okay, I gotta stop. But if I allow this awareness, I begin to notice the sensations around me, and I can understand why it's comforting for me to sit at this table right now and preparing myself for the next phase of whatever it is as I was getting ready to get ready for today. I came and sat at the table, and I'm sitting at this dining room table because this is a comforting place for me. And then I had to begin to be ready to look and experience this time of being still And then when I'm ready, I can come out of that. And I begin to look around me, and I come not only feeling and tasting my environment, but being more in tune with who I am and being ready, going into the saying, I am going to get me ready. I'm not going to try to fix anybody else. This is all about me. When was the last time, my friends, girlfriend, that we took a minute to just be a friend to me? I'm just asking. I don't ask for much. So I'm asking again for us to practice being present for ourselves and sometimes letting go of so many other things that get in the way of us not taking care of ourselves. Go back to Miles Mabley. My baby that left me. She said, but I love Mama Mabley too because Mama Mabley told the naked truth. Remember, there were some comedians that back in the day, when they said it, they meant it. You know, and there were people who it wasn't foul. I mean, it may have been cussing, but it wasn't foul with with any kind of intent to be foul. It was just a way of making life alive. When was the last time we were around anybody who knew more than three cuss words that they actually use? You know, people can't cuss no more. You know, think about it. People can't cuss and people can't pray. So how are they gonna do either one of them when they only halfway working at it? I'm just saying, what's the next slide? Mindfulness can deal with our addiction, our anger, our personality, our anxiety, our depression. I'm just saying we can do all of that and more just by being present for ourselves and through mindfulness and through, I wonder, is that my last slide? It should be. That's it. Take that off. And I just want to just get some reactions from folks about um, what do you think about this notion about spiritual first aid and this notion about taking care of oneself and practicing presence for yourself? I'd like some. What are your thoughts? Did any of this make sense?
Oh my goodness, Dr. Dottie, thank you so much for that information. It was so enlightening. We don't take enough time to do for ourselves. Like you said, we do for everyone, this here, this there, but when do we take time for ourselves to pour all of that energy back into ourselves? As I was listening to my spirit was speaking to me, and it was like the you that I gave you, I really needed it for me. So I'm taking it back.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was the awareness that was coming to me while you were speaking. And then as you were talking about mindfulness, if we take an opportunity to just sit still for a moment, just sit still for a moment. And that's like when you were sitting at the big table and you said, oh, as I sat here, I was able to remember why I feel so comfortable here, because this is the place we had dinner. This is the place where Mama had the biscuits. This is the place where we all came together. And so that we all have these things in our lives that trigger certain responses from us. We just need to take time to listen, take time to feel, and then take time to allow our higher power or creator to reveal why he's bringing all this stuff to the surface. You understand? That's what I got from it. I'm just so grateful.
Thank you.
So grateful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that when we're born, if you notice, I just think back to a story. Let me come on camera for a second. I just think back to when my baby was born and I would change her diaper and she'd be laying on the bed and she would just be gazing up and giggling and following something, And so I believe that, the older we get cut off from our enlightenment, our natural born enlightenment. And I think it's, by the time we're adults, we just kind of think we're just skin and bones. We don't even contemplate the spiritual part of ourselves unless we are enlightened by someone. So I think it's so important. And I think too, that it is just a consciousness that is just pushing people to be more conscious in general right now. But you're right. Just being able to be quiet and just to lock in and just start just taking those moments to be quiet. I think it is so important and so true because if we don't take care of ourselves, how can we even take care of the other ones, the ones that we're, pretty much doing everything for?
Mhm.
So it's just a
Mhm.
mindful reminder in just ways. And so I thought it was just awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. We're not gracious to ourselves. We're doers, and we tend to, at least I have to speak for me, you all. Sometimes I get so busy doing for other people that I forget that I'm the one that's got to get up out of the bed and not stink in the morning so I can go on with my day. I got to take a shower. I got to wash me up and clean me up and feed me. But I'm so busy trying to make sure that everybody else gets it. Sometimes I don't do what I need to do to be ready and really prepared to be the model that people look. Everyone here, somebody's looking up to you for some reason, for more than one reason. And we all have those folks that look up to us, and we're examples for something. The best thing that I can do is be a good example for me. I can't be responsible for what other people think about me, but I sure can be responsible for who I am and what I need to do to show that I love me. By the way, one year, Valentine's Day was coming in. I knew I was going to be, I had a girlfriend that sometimes we would go to a movie or something. But I now give Valentine's Day Zoom parties for single women, single friends of mine, so that nobody will be alone intentionally, that in my circle, so that we can party and give our own selves Valentine's, because who's going to love me more than me? Just say it.
I love that idea. I really love that idea. And what I find is that the love I get from my girlfriends is so different than the love I get elsewhere from other people. And it's just so special to hear you saying that you have a group of friends and you all love on each other once a year. You have a party for Valentine's Day. Oh my gosh. How awesome is that? That is really, really awesome.
Just saying.
Yes, and thank you so much for all that you have said. Thank you so much for participating with us today. And like I said, this was our first annual Energy Harvest Healing event, and we'll come back again next year, and we'll have so much more fun, and we'll bring some more guests along to help us broaden the message and help us get the word out there that trauma can be healed. There is life after trauma. We do not have to continue to live in the shadow of our trauma. Isn't that a great thing to know today? Oh my goodness. And so as we wrap it up, I want to thank you all so much for participating. Thank you so much for being here. Katie, thank you for the yoga. Dr. Dottie, thank you for all the information you shared with Soul Repair. You guys are amazing. I can't wait to do this again. And in the meantime, I'm going to pray and ask God to bless you real, real good. And if there's anything that you are manifesting, I am sending all my positive energy to touch and agree with yours, so that thing that you are manifesting is on its way. And I will be looking forward to seeing you guys again real soon. Thank you so much. You all have a wonderful day.
Thanks, B. I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Be
Thank
blessed.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.